We are, all of us, the residents of a swiftly shrinking globe, where what was once local is fast becoming global, and our decisions and opinions resonate well beyond our own borders. Join me each week, your host, Al Zucaro, from the epicenter of the Western Hemisphere, Boca Raton, Florida, in sunny South Palm Beach County, for a pointed look at politics, immigration, culture, and what it means to be a citizen of the world. Well, folks, here we are again, and welcome back. We are going to continue our interview with Ira Sabin, the treasurer for the local Republican Party here in Palm Beach County. And as you know, this segment is brought to you by Fugazi International Travel. That's Fugazi International Travel. You can find them on the web at www.fugazitravel.com. Well, Ira, when we left the last time, we were chatting about the importance of Florida in the upcoming elections. And the names that have been circulated are Marco Rubio,
right,
Jeb Bush, and Allen West.
Right.
Allen is, of course, a hometown favorite.
Right.
Okay, he's almost a rock star here in Palm Beach County.
He is.
And Jeb, of course, is one of the most beloved governors that the state of Florida has ever had. And Marco Rubio is truly an up-and-coming, a bright star in the Republican Party.
Absolutely.
So, what do you think our chances of one of those three actually being picked as the vice presidential candidate? And it clearly demonstrates how important Florida is in the electoral vote college.
Absolutely. Well, if I knew that, I could make a lot of money. But let's take them one at a time. Let's do Jeb first. If Jeb's last name wasn't Bush, he'd probably be at the top of the ticket today. There's no question about that. I don't know if Jeb wants it. I think he saw what it did to his father. I think he saw what it did to his brother. And I really don't know if he wants it, but as he said last week, if he's asked, he will consider it. Then we have Marco. The senator is a bright young man, as you said, an up-and-coming star. But when he did run for the Senate, he does have some financial issues. And if those are put to bed and there's really nothing there, I think he's the clear favorite.
Let's stop with Marco for a second.
Sure.
Oftentimes people talk about Marco because they argue that he brings the Hispanic, because he's Hispanic, he brings the Hispanics.
Right.
I actually take a different posture on that. My posture is he brings the Cubans. Okay, I don't think he brings the Puerto Ricans, who vote mostly Democrat, and I think that he has been brave the last few weeks in putting out an immigration platform that wants to ride the line to allow the conservatives to remain conservative, but adopt what is clearly necessary, and that is some kind of platform for comprehensive immigration reform. Is he putting himself in danger by doing that?
I don't really think so. I think immigration reform has to be tackled. There are a bunch of different plans out there. We can comment on that at some other point. But something has to be done with immigration. And Marco, as you mentioned, the Cuban vote. The second largest Cuban community in the United States is in New Jersey.
I didn't know that.
Yeah. And the Chris Christie right now has a 59% approval rating. Putting Marco on the ticket as of Cuban ethnicity, you solidify Florida, and in my mind, you will put New Jersey in play. Now, if the Democrats have to defend New Jersey, which has been a stalwart of theirs for the last 3 elections, if I'm correct, I might be 2, but then they have problems. And also, what may happen is we don't have that. People say, or the talking heads, as I like to call them, us. They don't. We have no chance in California. But put Marco on the ticket. There's a Cuban community in California. Now, if the Dems have to go in there and spend money, everybody says he's going to have $1 billion or whatever. Well, it's still a finite amount of money. It's not an infinite amount of money. So if he has to spend money in places that the Dems didn't think they have to spend, then Marco adds that dimension to the ticket also.
All right, now, Jeb Bush has also been a favorite among the Latino
Yes.
community. He speaks Spanish, he's married to a Mexican, so he also, and he is a major icon in the Cuban community down in South Florida, at least. He brings a lot of the same dimension to the ticket as well, and he brings a lot more seasoned political know-how to the table. The odd person out in Florida that's being considered is Alan West, who is an incredible politician and a lightning rod, but he brings to the community a whole lot of constitutional presence, a whole lot of American principles, a whole lot of history. He's clearly a voice. What do you think his shot is at?
Amongst the three of them?
Yeah.
Number 3. I agree with everything you said, but he is too vocal. Everything he says, as you said, he's a flashpoint, and what happens with that is, let's say he gets the nomination and he's out on the campaign trail or something, and he makes the same type of statement he made last week. Then they're going to have to spend, how much time are they going to have to spend to defend that? That's what a vice president has to be the attack dog, and Jeb or Marco can probably do it because they're politicians more than Alan is a politician. And they could probably do it with, the old expression is, shaking with one hand and stabbing you in the back with the other. And I think they can do that more than Alan can do that. I would like to see Alan in a position where I'd like to see him as Secretary of the Army. I would even consider him for Secretary of Defense. But that's where I think you need Alan. That's where he can do the most because of his, in my mind, what his past experience is and his past background is. That's where he belongs.
Ira, thank you for coming in today.
Oh, my pleasure.
I'm going to make sure that the audience looks forward to it. We'll get you back in a couple of weeks, so begin to prepare it.
I will.
You'll bring the entire political spectrum to the table.
Thank you so much.
Welcome to the show.
I appreciate it. Thank you again.
Well, folks, we'll be right back. Thank you. We're taking a break. Remember, this segment was brought to you by Fugazi International Travel, located on the web at www.fugaziinternational.com. Well, welcome back, folks, and thank you, Ira, for bringing us, for allowing that interview. And, folks, you'll be seeing Ira on a regular basis with regards to the show. He's going to be doing some political commentary and keeping us up to speed, especially with the upcoming elections over the next 6 or 7 months. And thank you, Fugazi International Travel, for sponsoring the first segment of this show. Now we're going to go into the immigration and economic development area of the show. This segment is brought to you by Palm Beach Investment and Finance, and you can find them on the web at www.palmbeachregionalcenter.com. That's palmbeachregionalcenter.com on the web. Today we're going to pick up on something that we talked about in the last session, and that was the attraction that Marco Rubio seems to have, particularly from the Republican side of the equation. It seems like everybody and anybody is passing an opinion that Marco is the guy that may be the lead choice for Mitt Romney as his vice presidential pick. Well, I think that Marco is actually is probably a legitimate candidate, but I think that the reasons for picking Marco may be in question, at least in my mind. I've said this before, so I'll say it again. Marco, although he is Hispanic, represents a segment of the Hispanic population, and that is the Cuban section, and he certainly brings a lot of influence in the debate with regards to immigration. He also will help bring the state of Florida, because the Cubans are a really specific voting group, and they are very strong, particularly in the South Florida area, as in other parts of the country, but particularly in South Florida. But I think that Marco is taking a leap of faith. Actually, I think that he's taking a serious risk. He is in the process now of formulating his own version of some sort of comprehensive immigration reform. He has been an opponent of the DREAM Act, and has said that he would vote against it and has voted against it. And now he is in the process of modifying the concept of the DREAM Act in order to seem to mitigate maybe Mitt Romney's harsh position on immigration. Now, the fine line that Marco is drawing is a line that I'm not sure is going to be accepted. He says, and I'll read a portion of an article that I read, although Rubio has not yet written a bill, the version he has discussed contains a major difference from the DREAM Act as it stands. Beneficiaries would be eligible for non-immigrant visas that would allow them to stay in the country legally and work, but those visas would not be a path to permanent residence and citizenship. Well, you know, that sort of creates an underclass, and in fact, he then goes on to say, Marco is quoted as saying, there is a difference between citizenship and legalization. Well, it's interesting that he should use the word legalization because that takes us back from the poison phrase of amnesty. But Marco has now received some very serious criticism. FAIR has come out against him, and FAIR takes the position that this is not acceptable, and the Tequila Party has come out against it, and their thing is that it is a divisive tactic that would turn beneficiaries into a permanent underclass. I think that Marco runs a couple of risks. First, he is Cuban American. He is Hispanic. But there is great differences between the Cuban populations and the other ethnic groups like the Puerto Ricans, etc. I think Marco's attempt to mitigate this immigration question is admirable. I think it's risky. I commend him for attempting to do it. Immigration needs to be done. Marco is a leader. He fits the definition of leadership, so I reserve opinion on whether this is the appropriate thing for him to do or not, and I look forward to his moving forward and advancing in the politics of the country. So, with that said, folks, again, we thank Palm Beach Investment and Finance for underwriting and financing this part of the show, and now we're going to do something kind of unique. A couple of weeks ago, we talked about we took some footage at the economic summit that was held at the convention center in Palm Beach County. We're going to break away now. We're going to have a collage of some of the speakers and some of the guests that we interviewed and give you an overview as to what actually took place in that room that day. And we'll be back after that, after this collage. Thank you. Well, Dan, here we are, the second year in a row that the Palm Beach Strategic Forum has found its way into the convention center here in West Palm Beach, and this is an incredible event, it looks like, so far today. Have you been here from the very beginning?
I've been here from the very beginning since last year, and what the group has been able to do has been quite amazing. They've been able to bring a global focus to Palm Beach and bring the problems of the world, whether those be what's going on with the economies of Latin America, which are burgeoning emerging markets, as well as what's going on with Europe and the sovereign debt crisis that we have there. And they've managed to take all of these different problems around the world and bring them into a strategic platform, not in New York City or Davos or Washington, D.C., but bring them to the heart of Palm Beach County, which is West Palm Beach, and do it so in a way that is outside of the political structure so that we can really talk about the issues and kind of get down to business.
Dennis Brady, how are you?
Good, Al. How are you?
Palm Beach Chamber of Commerce. Earlier today, Gray Swope from Enterprise Florida encouraged people to become active members in the Florida Chamber and in the local chambers to help expand international trade, international commerce, and to grow our economy. I assume, I know you'll support that proposition, but it's very interesting to me that the international market has found its way to Palm Beach County, and we are here, and it is growing, and there's so much activity. Your thoughts as the head of the chamber here with regards to international trade and whether our companies are actually reacting positively to it?
I think the important message from Gray is the fact that Florida, and especially South Florida, needs to play an aggressive role in extending our local businesses into foreign trade and commerce.
Manny Mancia, Enterprise, Florida. Thank you very much, first of all, for allowing me to be your guest here today. Palm Beach County, the forum, it's a big step for us to come in international trade. Please.
No question. I think this is a conference that has the potential to become one of the foremost gathering of international business leaders. It has enormous potential I believe on the long term to become a defining event not only for Palm Beach but for Florida. As you've seen, we've attracted close to or over 900, I understand, registrants to the conference today over the 2-day period. This is only the second year, so I think this could be a conference that will help expand Palm Beach reputations as a business center in places around the world, and not only that, contribute significantly to Florida's continued emergence as a global gateway.
Tony, you and I have been doing a lot of airtime lately, and we both find ourselves in the same place at the same time. So I thought we'd take a moment and just chat. This Palm Beach Strategic Forum, it's a very significant event to bring to Palm Beach County. Clarence, how are you? Good to see you. And so I thought maybe you'd share some of your thoughts on how it helps the realtor and the realty market. Well, folks, I hope you enjoyed the collage. I hope it gave you an understanding of what is actually going on here in Palm Beach County. And what I didn't get on tape, because we didn't have an opportunity to film it, is Palm Beach Atlantic University also had a major event that week. They called it the World Leadership Conference, and Tony Blair was the keynote speaker. That also was a major attractor. So Palm Beach County, and particularly our convention center and our universities, are way ahead in the internationalization of this particular area of Florida, and it is nice to see that people are reaching beyond the borders of Miami and coming north, because as we say in our commercial, we are the epicenter of the Western Hemisphere. In the meantime, we thank U.S. Immigration and Taxation LLC for bringing us the collage segment of this program, and now we're going to move into Fireworks and Politics. And Fireworks and Politics is sponsored by my law firm, Alfred Zucaro Jr., PA. You can reach me on the internet at www.alzucaro.com. That's www.alzucaro.com. That's my immigration law practice, and we look forward to hearing from you. But in this segment, I want to talk about fireworks and politics. Immigration is, of course, the focus of this show and a major item with regards to the political structure. Our president, who seems to be more embraced by the immigrant communities, has actually turned out to be the largest deporter of people from the United States. He has deported more people in his first 4 years than George Bush did, I think, in the entire term that George Bush was the president. That may not be actually accurate, but it's close. Clearly, President Obama has deported more people than previous presidents of the past. In fact, he authorized, or it was authorized just 2 weeks ago, the Immigration and Customs Enforcement people sent out approximately about 1,900 agents fanned out throughout the country, and they actually arrested 3,100 illegal immigrants, and those illegal immigrants are people with serious criminal issues in their past. They are clearly people that will be deported or find their way into federal prisons because they entered or re-entered the United States after deportation, etc., etc. What was interesting about this, or what is interesting about that, is that the director, John Morton, called the agency's commitment to tracking down criminal aliens and fugitives. Remember, the president signed an executive order that has authorized agents of the of the Homeland Security to use their discretion when they're dealing with people that don't fit within the categories of public danger, of terrorists, of criminal aliens, etc. So to find 3,100 illegal aliens that fit the category of criminal suggests how many there are actually in this country. What I found quite interesting was the impact on Palm Beach County. Of those arrested, 18 were in Palm Beach County and 16 were on the Treasure Coast. Excuse me. The people arrested were from 116 countries from around the world, and included 698 immigrant fugitives, 559 illegal re-entrants into the country, and 149 sexual predators and 50 gang members. I have to tell you, this is really a good thing because it's taken a lot of bad people off our streets, but it continues to fly in the face of this president arguing that he's immigrant friendly when in fact he is deporting more people than anybody else. However, I think that Mitt Romney on the other side of this political equation has a long way to go to prove his sincerity and his sensitivity to the immigrant community. But to this, I commend it, and I think it's a good thing. As a follow-up to that, remember a couple of weeks ago we reported on some of the other legislations that have passed in state legislators around the country. I think it was in the state of Alabama, if I'm not mistaken, that part of their legislation that they passed was to impose upon school districts the obligation to inquire as to the nationality of the people and the legal status of the people that were here in their school systems. Well, I think that has caused some controversy in Alabama. It may even be the subject of some federal lawsuit down the road. But why I'm referring to it is that just recently, the Palm Beach County School District, which is one of the largest, certainly the largest district in the state of Florida, and one of the largest districts in the United States, starting in 2012-2013 school year, administrators will be specifically directed to admit students born outside the United States whose parents are unable to provide driver's licenses and other documents showing a county address. That's the new rule at the Palm Beach County school system. So we can see that there is all sorts of issues that revolve around recognizing people's nationality, recognizing their illegal status. And just yesterday, the Supreme Court of the United States actually took this subject up with the Arizona case, and many of these other cases are sitting pretty much in limbo until a ruling, which is expected in June sometime, will give some guidance as to how states actually are authorized or not to do things that are moving forward. So with that said, it's on to kudos and chaos. First item I want to talk about, again, immigration. There's a push by the Democratic Party or people sympathetic to the Democratic Party to identify out of the 12.6 million people in the United States that are holding so-called green cards or people that are permanent residents, to get them in the system to process and to naturalize them, and to get this done prior to the November elections, because statistics suggest that when this happens, most of those new voters vote Democratic. So there's a push on the part of the Democratic Party to encourage new voters. I gave it a kudo because I think it's a smart move. From my point of view, it's a KO because I'm an R. KO. The Immigration Service, through the Customs and Border Patrol, has announced that it is expanding the definition of family to cover the item of domestic partnerships. So I'll read from their announcement. CBP is proposing to expand the definition of term member of family residing in one household to include domestic relationships, would allow more U.S. returning residents to file a joint customs declaration for articles acquired abroad. Well, how does anybody know who's a domestic relationship, a domestic partner? You can easily prove you're married with a marriage certificate. You can't prove you're a domestic partner at the border. So I think that that's a way too much political correctness, so I gave it a KO. Kudu. Cuban tourism rises in Florida. Well, you know, now that we have the trading pact, now that the president has gone down there, now that our Secret Service guys have taken up with the prostitutes in Cartagena, more Cuban tourism is coming to the Colombian tourism is coming to the United States. I think that's a good thing, so we'll let that get a kudu. And then KO. the public defender, Carrie Howard, a friend of mine, and 15 judges were automatically reelected to office without being challenged. No challenges stepped forward. As a general rule, folks, I believe that there should always be an election for everything. So I encourage elections. I don't think that people should walk into office, and I think that we're seeing a good example of this in the Palm Beach County State Attorney situation, where Mr. Arenberg was actually the preferred person, and a lot of almost extortion techniques were employed to make sure that nobody got in the race. Well, now 3 people in the race, and now he's going to have to stand up in front of the public. I think he's going to win anyway, but the fact is I appreciate the election process. And then finally, a double kudu. There is a place in St. Lucie County that has been set aside. I think it's 1,500 acres of land, and it is a retirement community for chimpanzees that have been used for testing, for various testing in the military, in the commercial applications, etc. I don't know who the owners of this thing are, but it's Save the Chimps Foundation, and I suggest that anybody who's got a heart should look this up. It's an attractive place for people to go, and I think that if you've got a couple of bucks and you want to contribute it to them, that to me is a worthwhile cause. So with all that said, I want to bring our show to close. I want to remind you that we are, all of us, the residents of a swiftly shrinking globe, where what was once local is fast becoming global, and our decisions and opinions resonate well beyond our own borders. I thank you for joining me each week, your host, Al Zucaro, from the epicenter of the Western Hemisphere, Boca Raton, Florida, for this pointed look at politics, immigration, culture, and what it means to be a citizen of the world. Good night now.